We talk 35 years of memories with musical director and organist for the LA Kings, Dieter Ruehle, on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we're on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network, also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I am very happy to welcome back to this show someone I'm a big fan of. If you're an LA Kings fan, you know him very well. He is the musical director and organist for the LA Kings, also the organist for the Dodgers as well, and he is the great Dieter Ruehle. Hey, Dieter, how are you?
Hey, Eddie. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to have you back on. And I saw you were recently on the local news. KCAL 9 Sports Central LA did a nice feature on you. That was very cool.
That was cool. Thanks. Yeah, that turned out well, I thought. Yeah.
You're going into your 35th NHL season, mostly with the Kings. So I wanted to say congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Last time we had you on, I know you shared about the journey a little bit, and I know we're going to reflect on that a little bit more, but you started back at the Forum when it was just you and the PA announcer, no video board, no in-arena host, no other music other than what you played on the organ. So things have certainly changed. Does it feel like 35 years?
No. Where does the time go? I don't know. It just goes so fast. But yeah, like when I started, it was just organ and our public address announcer, David Courtney. And then that was 89-90, which was Wayne Gretzky's second year. And then my second year, which was 90-91, the Kings management gave me a tape deck. They're here, play some cassettes, some recorded music during the games. So before that, it was just all organ or there was just silent breaks. I was playing organ during intermission. And then when they gave me the tape deck, it's like, oh, we introduced recorded music. And I remember that first whistle break playing, I think it was like a Billy Idol song or something. It was just, people were looking up and like, it was the weirdest thing to hear a voice that wasn't our public address announcer. And of course, now it's just so normal, right? Mm-hmm. At first, it wasn't. It was kind of strange at first. And then my third season, which was 91-92, the Forum got a video board. We didn't have a video board. It's just a center hung board. And whenever I would play Go Kings Go, I had a telephone. I would call the Nancy, who was on the message board. Hey, I'm going to play Go Kings Go. Can you type it up? She'll type up GOKINGS. It would flash up Go Kings Go. Yeah.
It is amazing how things have changed. Obviously, technology's had such a huge impact on all of our lives. But did you, in some ways, did you kind of enjoy how it was in the old days? I mean, there's a lot of things going on now. I know how busy you are during a game. A lot of things at the touch of your finger now that, make it, I guess, easier and more convenient to be able to do it all, but there's a lot going on. Do you sometimes wish you had kind of just a more simplistic, or do you really like how complicated and intricate it has become?
I love where it is now, because I feel like we just continue to evolve, and at the time it was great. It's all we knew, but little by little, like I said, we got a video board. And then we have hosts, and then we can do things with the video board, and we can do a dance cam and a kiss cam, and there's just more options now. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of musical cues. So then we ended up getting I Needed Help. We got DJ Vic 1 in 2014. Otherwise, I wouldn't even ever have a break. It was a lot from the minute. It's a lot now from when the minute doors open all the way to the end. Because back when I started, when doors opened, there was just silence. There was no music at all. Not until I wouldn't start playing until after warm-ups, and I would play on the organ for a bit. We'd have some announcements, then the game would happen. So it's changed a lot, obviously. But I the one thing I do miss, we used to wear white at home, and I miss that.
Yeah, I do too.
Because then you can see all the team's colors.
Yep.
Especially now, I don't know if you noticed at the draft in Vegas, it seems like with Fanatics jerseys, like the NHL is like showcasing all the jerseys, but they're all the color, they're all the dark uniforms. So it's like they're showcasing all the, you didn't see any white jerseys at the draft. I don't know if you noticed that. But yet,
I did not notice.
Yeah, it was every jersey was the dark or the home now.
Yeah.
But yet they don't get to share that with the fans, in that like when these teams go on the road, it's always going to be white.
Right.
So I missed it. Like when Detroit came in, it was like solid red, uniforms, or Montreal be red and blue, or the Rangers blue and red, and et cetera, et cetera. So I do miss that. But yeah, I think the game's in a great place where it is.
And I know, I've talked to a lot of people, and it's kind of cliched, go to a hockey game in person. It's so much different from watching it on TV. Even if you're not a hockey fan, you'll love going. And I think the in-game experience, the music, the organ playing, the stuff on the video, that all really plays into why going to a hockey game can be a very fun experience, even if you're not a hardcore hockey fan.
Yeah, I think it's all about the feel that you get when you're there in person, and hopefully I'm adding to it.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, if you can't make it, watching on TV is great too. But I think when you're there, it's like there's just things you pick up that you just can't grab on TV.
Clearly, if there's any over the 35 years, is there any really big memories that stand out for you that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. I mean, just my journey to get here. Like I said, I started in '89, and then I left after the '92 season. And I moved up north. Long story short, I ended up getting hired by the Sharks. And I did 5 seasons with the San Jose Sharks, starting with their second overall season, which was '92, '93, and they played at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. It was an old barn. I think it's still up there. And then the next season, we opened up San Jose Arena, '93, '94. So I did a total of 5 years with the Sharks, which included some pretty fun playoff runs when the Sharks upset Detroit in the '90s, the heavily favored Detroit Red Wings. And the Sharks had Archer Zerbe, Igor Larionov, Sergei Makarov, and there were some fun memories there. And then I remember moving to Phoenix, and I did 1 season with the Phoenix Coyotes in '97, '98. And I remember meeting Marianne Herman, who brought me back to the Kings for the '98, '99 season. We met at a Coyotes game, and she was just observing. She was working for the Ducks at the time, and she gave me her card. Have you ever in LA? I go, well, I'm actually going to probably move back. So sure enough, a few months later, I moved back, and she had me fill in at some Ducks games. So in March and April of '98, I did about 4 or 5 of the last Ducks games of the season at the Pond. And then she also had me cover some Angels games because Disney had just taken over the Angels, and they had renovated Edison Field. So they put the rock formation out there. And I ended up doing some games there. And then in June, she had left and she got hired by the Kings. And she called me June 15th of '98. I'm always going to remember that. Hey, Dieter, you want to come back to work for the Kings? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. She goes we've got 1 more year at the Forum, and then we've got this new arena opening in downtown, Staples Center, and there might be other opportunities for you. And sure enough, there were. I ended up basically working for all the teams. I got the Lakers, LA Avengers, the arena football team, the Sparks, did some Clippers games. I ended up doing the Lakers for 15 years. But so my journey is I did a circle. I started in LA, I'm back in LA. I've been back since '98. And I've been to some All-Star games, some Olympics. one memory is the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver when Canada won. But it was like, I don't know if you remember this, it was like USA against Canada in the gold medal game. And, the host country, Canada, they're just, obviously they're hockey crazy, right? And they were just so into it. Then all of a sudden, with under a minute to go, Team USA tied the game. And people in Vancouver were just like in shock, like, oh, and then there was a full intermission before overtime. And there was so much tension in the air. But then, sure enough, Sidney Crosby got that golden goal, and the arena went nuts, the city went nuts, the country went nuts. And I was just pretty fortunate to be there working. I think that was my third Olympics at the time, third or fourth.
Very cool. Definitely want to ask you more about the Olympics, but glad you eventually found your way back to the LA Kings and then the Dodgers as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. We've got some more memories and stories with LA Kings musical director and organist Dieter Ruehle here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, I want to let you know that no matter how the last game went, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match Assessment and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of qualified candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your must-have job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only have to pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked-on. Offer valid through a limited time. Go to Indeed.com/locked-on to get your $75 credit. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Then you need Indeed. All right, we are back with Dieter Ruehle. Dieter, I just wanted to share some of my favorite moments with you at Kings games, and probably my favorite song that you play is "Lady of Spain" because of the movie Slapshot. And it always cracks me up because you get into it as well. You wear the hockey helmet. For people who have seen the movie, they know what that's all about. But I absolutely love that. That's hilarious. And I know that I think you've played like Phantom of the Opera and you've worn like a Phantom mask. And so you certainly have fun with your job and do some other things like that. Is there a favorite skit or any kind of favorite thing that you do that you enjoy doing? Maybe Halloween. I don't know if you're a Halloween game, you dress up for those kinds of things.
Yeah, Lady of Spain is fun when I put the helmet on. And you mentioned the Phantom of the Opera. That's always fun during Halloween. And then once in a while, I'll do if we have like a Star Wars night, I'll dress up as a Jedi. That's pretty fun too. But all those nights are fun. That's what it's about. It should be fun. People are going to a game, and it's a game. It's a sporting event, and I think it should be fun. And I think we all try our best to make it fun in the game entertainment side of things.
I don't know if you know this or not, but is it true that the guy that played the organ in Slapshot is now the organist for the Kraken? Do you know if that's true or not?
It was true. I think he did the first year for the Kraken. From what I've seen on social media, the Kraken have a new organist the last year or two.
Okay.
But it was true. Yeah. His name is slipping my mind right now. But yeah, that was true.
I did see on X and Twitter that you had a organist summit that you attended, I believe. Is that something new, or is that something that has gone on? Do you meet with other people that do your similar job in other sports and kind of compare notes and things like that?
Actually, it was just done online
Okay.
about a month ago by Robbie Robinson, who's a big Dodgers fan. And he gathered up a few organists that he knows. And we were all on the same podcast, but it was virtual. It wasn't in person. But even brought back the old Dodgers organist, Nancy B. Heffley. So that was fun. But it was like, yeah, that's like the first ever organist summit that I'm aware of. And I think it'd be fun to have more,
Do you ever, I assume I don't know if you cross paths because you're always at stadiums, but do you ever cross paths with other people that do your job and kind of talk shop a little bit, or no?
Not as much as I would like to. It's happened, but it's pretty rare. Um, yeah, I can count on one hand. Maybe once or twice I've come across another organist who happens to be in town, or I may have gone out of
Mhm.
town. Um, but it doesn't happen too often, no.
I know when the Dodgers win, you play "I Love L.A." Obviously, iconic song. This past year, and maybe it's been more than this past year, but I know when the Kings win, you'll play "Hollywood Nights" by Bob Seger. Um, do people make suggestions about, oh, you should play this song, or do you guys? I don't know if it's just all on you, or if you have some other people that you kind of bounce ideas off with about, hey, we should try this song or different things like that. Do you try and mix it up year by year, or are there some kind of traditional things like "I Love LA" that's kind of always going to be what you're going to play?
Well, the Hollywood Nights, the Bob Seger came into, and maybe this might have been the second year we did it. I hope we keep going with it because I really like it. It wasn't my call. Some of these things are calls from up above, and but we all kind of brainstorm together. Um, so yeah, for years it was it "I Love LA"? I don't even remember. I don't remember, but for right now, it's Hollywood Nights, Bob Seger, and I think it's a good fit because it's kind of unique. I Love LA is used by more than one team, and even though we are LA, it's like, why not Hollywood Nights? I think it's a great fit.
How often do you kind of, I mean, like I said, I know that there are some things that you want to keep because people kind of expect it, but how often do you like to keep things fresh and incorporate, obviously, more contemporary music, or if there's a big hit that's come out, recently, how often, and is it your call pretty much for being able to add things or take things out, that kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. The in-game music, I just collaborate with DJ Vic One, and we'll go over, like, we have a production meeting, then him and I kind of sit together and talk about the plan. And sometimes I'll say, hey, let me play this song by the weekend because I've been wanting to play it for a while. So make sure you don't play it so we don't repeat. Even
Right.
though if we did repeat, it'd be okay. But so that's kind of how it works.
I did want to ask you. We had Hannah Davy on the show recently, who is the King's national anthem singer, and of
Yeah.
course, you play along with her
Yeah.
as well. Do you have any specific memories for your career as far as like the national anthem goes?
Yeah. Back at the Forum, late 80s, early 90s, we had a few singers. One was Frank Mahoney, one was Warren Weeby, and I think he sang America the Beautiful, but he sounded so much like Stevie Wonder. It
Hmm.
just this incredible sound that he had. And then at Staples Center in the early years, we had Davis Gaines, the Phantom of the Opera, who's incredible. And we had, of course, Pia Toscano, who she preferred to go a cappella. So
Hmm.
that was fine. She just wanted to sing on her own, no organ at all. And now with Hannah, the last few years, it's been a blast because like she's just so down to earth and real, and she's a season ticket member, and
Yeah.
she's got a great voice. In fact, she went out of her way to learn "O Canada" in French for
Yeah. We
like
talked about it. Yeah.
when Montreal's here, and then I think when Ottawa's here. So good on her. I think that's great. And then she's just fun to accompany. And then we always rehearse about 2 hours before game time, around 5:30 for a 7:30 game, just to make sure everything's right, all the levels are right. But I think, yeah, I mean, all in all, it's like there's been some great singers over the years, but I think Hannah right now she's killing it. She's great.
I know when I talked to her, we just had the baseball all-star game and there was that unfortunate incident with the anthem singer there. And I had asked her if there had ever been any bloopers or if the mic didn't work or anything. And she said, no, knock on wood, nothing's gone wrong so far. Have there ever been any issues with you where you just averted, some kind of an issue or anything like that?
We A few years ago there was an unfortunate experience with I think it was Robbie Krieger, the guitarist with the Doors. I'm sure it's
Okay.
out there on YouTube somewhere. But he played the anthem, but it's been a few years, so my memory's fading a little bit. But he actually wanted organ accompaniment, but when he went to play it, somebody had kicked the power off his amp or something. And so it was like there's this pause, like, because nothing was happening. And I'm like holding the notes down. I'm like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And finally, I just stopped. I let go. And then the technicians quickly reconnected him and we went. But that's pretty much the only, I guess, blunder I remember. You mentioned that game in the baseball game, the Texas All-Star game recently.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that shouldn't happen. I don't care if the person is drunk or not. And I do think organ accompaniment would have made it a little better because it would have kept her in key. Because I did follow along some of the replays of that performance, and she was like in E and then F and then F sharp, and then she wouldn't even stay in the same key. And it with organ accompaniment at least would keep you in key. Not to mention it adds harmony. Because think about it, when you hear music on the radio, you're not just hearing a vocalist, you're hearing all the music underneath them. And you're not nowadays. A lot of anthem singers and other venues just go a cappella. But I think the organ accompaniment, that's what I grew up in a kid going to games in the 70s, watching games on TV, you'd always hear the organ underneath the anthem singers.
Very cool. All right, we've got more with LA Kings musical director and organist Dieter Ruehle here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, you've heard us talk a little bit about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little bit different for you. Now through September the 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single Sunday out-of-market NFL game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And, of course, FanDuel is always there for you to bet on your favorite sports, Major League Baseball, golf, soccer, NASCAR, of course, the upcoming NFL season. Join FanDuel, browse the latest betting odds of your favorite sports and teams on the Sportsbook app, and get in on the action. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, a little bit more with Dieter Ruehle, who is the organist for the LA Kings and the LA Dodgers. And you mentioned the Olympics. I know you've worked several winter games. We just had the Summer Olympics, and of course, the games are coming to LA in 2028. Do you know if you might be involved in anything as far as the Summer Olympics in LA?
Fingers crossed. I don't know. It's still 4 years away,
Yeah.
and I've done 6 Olympics. One of those was Summer Games.
Okay.
It was basketball, it was 20 years ago in 2004 in Athens. The other 5 were ice hockey. So we'll see. We'll see about LA in 4 years. Hopefully in Italy coming up in in a couple years. Maybe I'll get the chance to do hockey. We'll see.
That is amazing. I'm sure when you were a kid and playing the organ and had dreams of playing at hockey games, you never thought that it could take you to places around the world. That's amazing. Yeah. Any Olympic moments other than the Sidney Crosby goal that you talked about?
Well, yeah. My first games were in Salt Lake City in 2002, and that was just like a thrill just to be at the Olympics. And then 2006 was in Italy, in Torino. Just the whole experience of, being in Italy, and then in 2010 was Vancouver. 2014 being in Russia, in Sochi. That was a really cool experience. And then I did the 2022 games, so just 2 years ago in Beijing, and that was during COVID. So it was like we were in this bubble.
Yeah.
And so it was the only Olympics where when you go to the Olympics, you work a lot. You might get a few days to sightsee. This time in China, we were not free to go anywhere. We were just pretty much in the hotel to the arena and back. And the hotel was like a fortress. There was like walls around it. You couldn't leave. And I remember like after a few weeks, like we kind of wanted different food because they fed us well. That Chinese food was really good. But after a few weeks, and then on the bus to the arena, you would see there's a KFC or there's a Starbucks, And like across the street from the hotel was a Pizza Hut. It was right there in plain sight, but we couldn't have it. And finally, somebody got us some pizza, like last day or two, and it really hit the spot. Although, so a slice of cheese pizza, you think it's just going to be the crust and the sauce and the cheese and the crust, but underneath the cheese wasn't tomato sauce. It was this white stuff. I didn't know what this was. Like, it was mayonnaise.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was like, oh. But it was still all right because we hadn't had pizza or any other food in a long time. But that was just a pretty amazing experience being in China during COVID. I mean, I felt very safe. We were tested every day, but it was just a weird time in the world, right? It was like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Dieter, I wanted to ask you, you had a viral moment during this baseball season. There was a car in the parking lot at Dodger Stadium that unfortunately caught on fire. But you took advantage of the opportunity and tell us what happened.
Well, what happened was I saw smoke, but I didn't know a car was burning. I had no idea. From my vantage point, I saw a little bit of smoke, and I thought, oh, I mean, let's play weed and start the fire, not knowing there was a car on fire. I thought maybe some weeds were on fire or some trash. I don't know. But it ended up going viral, I think, because of that the fan who shot the video, he was up higher than me and further down toward the right field foul pole, so he could see clearly. He was zooming in on the car and come back into the stadium. So that video just captured the whole moment. And when I was playing it, it was just like, oh, I just had a few seconds to fill. I thought, okay, let me change what I was going to play this Billy Joel "We Didn't Start the Fire," not knowing there was a car on fire. I had no idea.
Well, not funny that somebody's car caught on fire, but very funny that you played that song. I cracked up when I heard that. So it's fun. I mean, you're in the moment, right? Things happen and you got to go with it. And that was very creative on your part.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, that's what I have to do. I feel like I prepare, but then sometimes something happens and then you got to adjust. And maybe I like to acknowledge what's happening,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know the last time we talked, you talked about, and it certainly makes sense, how you're so involved in a game, especially like a baseball game, but hockey too, of course. And then afterwards, you got to kind of decompress and kind of just relax. And I was wondering, I know for me, working in sports talk radio, hearing 7 hours of sports talk radio 5 days a week, the last thing I want to do when I get in my car is listen to any sports talk radio. I listen to music, like going to work, going from work. When I'm in my car, I'm always listening to music. I was wondering, and I know you've listened to the Ben Maller show, which I'm on Fox Sports Radio. When you get in your car or when you need to kind of unplug, do you want to get away from music and do something else?
Yeah, no music at all. There either will be silence or some sort of sports talk or like the post-game show. But yeah, after games, I just try to decompress, because you're playing in front of thousands of people and whatever the game is, usually you're just so I have all this adrenaline, and it's just I can't. It takes a while. You can't just shut it off, because you're on the edge of your seat, or in my case, like the edge of the organ bench, And at Kings games, I've got one finger on the trigger to hit the goal horn. Like, are we going to score? We did score. And which, by the way, can I just share this little story? I didn't realize it at the time, but when we won the Stanley Cup in 2014, it was Martinez's double overtime goal. And so I hit the horn, but I didn't realize how long I held it. Not until I watched the replay of it. It was like 40 or 45 seconds. But it didn't feel like it at the time, because that's like the ultimate moment, And that was a fun memory.
For sure.
Also, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say another fun memory was just last year in Australia. The NHL wanted me to to go and like give the NHL experience, and being there for the very first ever NHL games in Australia was so cool. And Hannah was there. Hannah Davy, you mentioned her earlier. But I was so impressed by the amount of like NHL fans that were Australian. Like there was a outdoor fest before each game, and I was out there lingering or mingling with the fans, and it was like you'd see these jerseys, all these NHL jerseys. There was Kings, there was Coyotes, but also Oilers and Blackhawks and Rangers, but you could tell they were local Australians. I mean, being so far away, I don't think a lot of Americans did the trip. There was just so many local Australian fans. Like, wow, they really do follow hockey down here. And then the games themselves, they were like, even though they were preseason games, there was so much energy in the arenas. Like they were just so happy to be watching hockey. So I hope the NHL goes back down there, because those games I thought went really well.
Yeah, I remember one of the Winter Olympics I was watching, and it didn't dawn on me. I'm like, why? This sounds like a Kings game. I kept hearing all these things that sound just like the thing, and then I realized Dieter's there. He's playing the music and whatnot from the Kings games over there. So that was a funny realization. And I will say, if you were ever going to lay on the goal horn, that was the time to do it. Overtime to clinch the Stanley Cup. Lay on that horn, Dieter. Nobody's going to complain about that. That's for sure.
Well, let's do it again. It's been 10 years. Like, come on, let's do it again.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dieter, congratulations on your 35th year of doing this coming up. Again, you do an awesome job with the Kings and the Dodgers, and I know that you've been a great part of a lot of fan experiences for us here in Southern California. So congrats. Looking forward to seeing you out there at Crypto here soon. And thanks again for doing this.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it.
All right. That is the great Dieter Ruehle, and we are happy to have him back on the show. Thank him so much for that. All right. For you everydayers, those of you that listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Friday, we'll have our weekly fan feedback show. Anything you want to talk about regarding the LA Kings, it is absolutely up to you. If you want to if you want to send an email for that show, lockedoneddie@gmail.com is the email address. If you want to stay connected on social media, on X, Twitter, and Instagram, we're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll talk to you on Friday. And as always, go Kings, go.